Bonham's foot technique. This is what I find. Your foot's flat. What you do too, though, and this is very important, your butt, when you see how low Bonham played back then. Look how low he sat in the chair, especially the 1973 stuff. But your foot's flat, right? I mentioned this in the other video, but what you do is just literally, right now, just bring your heel 2 inches off the ground. Or 1.5 inches, I don't know. I'd fit 2 fingers, like 1.5 inches. And then just start bringing it, right? You'll first start just bouncing it. I mean, the fact of the matter is just bounce it, okay? But not everybody can do this comfortably. More like, more slightly hyperactive-y type folks. That little kind of nervous bounce. Like, that's really where really most of the control and power and everything comes from. From right here, okay? Just like smack it. It's like you're throwing a ball against the wall. Bam, 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 and it just bounces back. Like a drumstick. It's just a maximizing, or I should say minimizing drag, maximizing every extra ounce of energy. But then what you do, remember, right now I'm about 17 inches off the floor. My ass is. I'm sitting in one of those chairs you'd see like at a banquet hall. And here onto the pedal, okay? Now, before we say anything, yes, this is a Camco early 80s. I don't have any Speed Kings here. And a Speed King that you have, when it's properly lubricated, you can really find your set. It is a great pedal. You can really control the hell out of it. You'll notice this pedal, though, look. This is a very DW sort of setting. See that? Like when guys play really sort of like double bass, like dig-a-dig-a-dig. That's very much this setting. Okay? Well, let me try. I'll do a couple different pedals. I don't have a Speed King. But watch. So see how I bounce my foot. Literally that. You can do that anywhere. You don't have to count it. Just do it comfortably. After a while, it'll start feeling pretty cool. You know what I mean? Again, after a while, you really rely on the bounce. Gravity sort of takes, and then you bounce and reflect against it, so you are using your muscle here. Your thigh muscle isn't going as much, really just on the primary lift, like a crane. Thigh up here, my quad is pulling this up, foot down, and then, but you're letting the whole weight of your leg sort of go up and down, a little bit just on that bounce, like boing, boing. You're not lifting the heel to force the looking. It's not even necessarily throwing your foot up. The first one is carried by actual energy, more energy than required in every successive thing. Lift this up, go like this. But then you just start bouncing. It sort of works on itself. Okay? You get used to that feeling. We transfer that to the pedal. I find the reason why in the other video that I know in the end was kind of just bad, it went on and on, it's the toe. Okay? Look at it. See my toe, which is here, big toe, which is a big, big toe. Okay, so an oval. And then here's the ball of my foot, which is kind of an oval-y thing too. So consider the shape. Imagine it like a bowling pin or a Bobo doll or whatever, or a peanut, like Mr. Peanut, okay? Mr. Salty or whatever the hell, or Mr. Peanut. Okay? So these two pads. Shoe back on. I had my matching socks today, thank God. Okay? So that foot goes on the pedal. And then literally just do that for a while. There's a reason I took karate, and I got my ass kicked by my sensei after a while, so I never went back. Well, not saying I never went back. I went and I talked to him, and then I never went back. But what happens is there's katas, where just movements you do. Like dances, okay? But you just keep practicing that individual dance. This is like basketball practice. I'm never going to do this next to the bass drum pedal. Even on here, I'll rarely might do that. But it's like at basketball practice when you bounce the basketball practicing rebounds against the wall. Okay, you got the basketball and you jump up and down. But you're never going to do that in a game. But it mimics, it really strengthens what it's trying to strengthen, is the rebound sort of, you're jumping up and the ball's bouncing off. That you get used to sort of that environment, okay, when you get there. So it becomes more second nature. All right, here, I'm going to sort of transfer this to here. So katas, when I said about katas, certain specific dances, those are exercises we'll do, okay? So much of what Bonham did is a triplet, bum bum bum, 1 and 1 2 3, okay? A solid one off the bass drum, but then often though you have this. So 1 and so here's what, just literally, watch my foot. It's in that position. I lift the heel up and then. the simple fact of the matter is, if you just try to actually just physically copy what I'm doing, even if you're like, well, dude, I'm not really sure what you're doing, just try to fake it and make it look as much like this as possible. Because then you'll stop thinking about it, really. You get comfortable after a while, even though it might be a pain in the ass to do. And eventually your foot will say, oh, I know a way to do this better. Honest to God, it's evolution, babe. And remember, speed is not, I just want to kind of see how fast I can. Because I made this video about 20 minutes ago and it was bad. And I lost a lot of my strength. Anyway, but I got it back now, baby. But watch. So that exercise. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and into a kata. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 5. You can add the snare in, like in my other triplet or my other Bonham triplet video. And then, yeah, again, here's the key. I gotta slow it down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and okay? You'll find that at first, like anything, in an open or closed hand thing, at first it's very open. It really is a lot of your leg muscle. Like at first it will require a lot of energy till you start going faster. Do you see like that quick bridge I sort of crossed? Actually, which you have to work on to make that a lot more smoother, that transition technically. Gets easier for your leg once you start going faster because you're relying more on this whole sort of a reasonable quasi-facsimile thereof of the Moeller technique or the push-pull or something, but just with your foot, okay? Okay, so here are the patterns. The two things I just did. So back to Bonham. Ba. What he does there, what's so beefcakey in Wake Up, Jimmy and Bob, we're talking here. What is so cool about it is the triplet into the downbeat. Now see, that was unclean. So see that? So here's a good kata, another kata. 3, 4. So that, however you want to count it. 2, 3, 4. 1, boom, boom, bum, bum, bum. 3, 4. 1, boom, boom, bum, bum, bum. 3, 4. That's it. That's the movement. Okay? So what? Your 1 is your right hand on the hi-hat, followed by the Anna with the foot. Okay? Right after that is your right hand and your left hand, hi-hat and snare, then 3 bass drum notes. And on the last bass drum note, the hi-hat hits again. So, see the hi-hat hitting at the very end? So, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da, 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 da. Sorry, starting to get away from me. Ready, so. See that? Okay, so similar to that. What you're doing is you're just making it a smaller globule and putting a bass drum note at the very end. Well, what you do, like anything, like any rolls or anything you ever practice, why am I shouting? You have to do it slow, because what it is you want to really soak that into your whole neural thingy that goes from your brain somewhere all the way to your foot. That whole how do we call it? The feedback loop. The whole 1 + 1 = 10 million. Seriously though, but you do it slow and you'll get like a muscle, everything memory. Entire physiological machinery, hand, foot memory. Like you never have to think about it again. That's what you're doing. You're kind of tattooing this pattern onto every bit of mammal flesh and nerves that control this action. And you just do it dead seriously. So I'll stay about right there. Because I haven't really played. See, the thing is you have to get up on this, and you have to practice this particular Bonham sort of. You got to do that a lot, especially when you're younger. Bonham at Royal Albert Hall, yeah, it was Royal Albert, right? Did it. He was freaking 20 years old when he did it. Okay, and I'll tell you something else. When he first got into Zeppelin, I know this. I've heard this in interviews. I can't find it now, but it is 22-inch bass drum and his 26 after he got that kit. I'm fairly certain that more often than not, in the studio, at least early on, he put cut-up newspaper in there. That might be anathema or horrible for some of you to say, don't turn the video off, but I really did hear that. Listen to his bass playing on the first record and stuff. It really sounds like a very muffled, it's a real, that's easier to control, okay? Doesn't mean it's a cakewalk to control. Okay, but I can assure you that a 26-inch bass drum with the felt strip front and back is a bitch to control. That's why Bonham didn't do crazy shit like that later, because I think it was hard to do on the apparatus on which behind he was playing. Okay? So here's the exercise. Bop, bop, bop. Bop, 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 like a song. Bop, 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 bop. What you want to do is play that in your head, but you got to really listen the whole time. And any little teeny mistakes you hear, you really want to hear it in your head first. And then you make your playing try to match how you hear it in its perfect, in its proper musical time. See, that last one to me was sloppy. It is helpful if you put a metronome on with this. Let me do that real fast. Think of it as a song. Hang on a second. Okay, 130 beats per minute. Right there, those were sort of getting into quad 16th note feel. But anyway, that's the exercise. 130 beats per minute for me. Practice it slower. Practice it at a speed that you're comfortable at. Here's 101, which might be way too slow. What the hell's the exercise? Oh yeah. Hang on. 3 and... You know what? At this tempo, I start moving it into 16th noteville. 1 EN to 2 EN to 3 EN to 4 EN, which he'll do too. crazy cats, is you have to do it. See, that's the thing which most Americans, myself, ADD, ADHD, drummer people, you do it for like 2 minutes, like, yeah, it's great, I'm all pumped up. Yeah, and you do it for a half hour the first day. Then the next day you do it for 2 minutes. Then the next day you do it for like 30 seconds. I mean, that's how we are. That's how most drummers are. Remember that if you're like, I really got to get good with this bass drum for this gig I'm going to do or something, you got to force yourself, tells a friend of yours to say, listen, I'm going to punch you in the face and let's just spend an hour a day on this stuff. Might just take a week. If you have a good right foot, take you like a week to probably almost exactly mimic most what Bonham did at like Royal Albert Hall. Okay, so hopefully this is very helpful from a John Bonham point of view, but also just a working bass drum point of view. And by the way, yes, here I do have on this bass drum, this is muffled. There's a felt strip in here, but I do have this towel on here to muffle the head just a little bit. Okay, and two, I did want to say I made this this is very much a DW type pedal with a lot of momentum, at least the way it's set up now. I don't know if it's this DW thing I have on here. But it really is a lot harder to do these, for me, with this cam code than it is on a properly lubed up speak. I just don't have a speaking. You know, I don't know. I prefer lower line pedals like 700 series like Yamahas and the really old Pearl, because it's real simple. It's all based off the old same stuff, but I find it to be the best. But again, the Speed King is a Speed King for a reason. It's loud. It made a lot of noise, but you really get a lot of control with it, especially sitting low, like I am right now with my R 17 inches off the floor, and doing the dance with the foot I showed you how to do, okay? Remember, do the exercise I did. God, I get foaming at the mouth when I talk about this stuff. My foot's totally flat on the floor. So I first start out lifting my leg and my foot up, but then it just starts bouncing. Okay, it's like bouncing, okay? But it's that feeling, that is the focus of control. Shift it over to the pedal. But it's not really important. Remember, this isn't like it seems like these days with a lot of technique, and in drumming, in fact, where it seems it's like real sports, like extreme. Like a lot of drumming these days is like extreme drumming. You know, even the music, it's like it's like everybody just practices like all this cool stuff over to a metronome or drum machine over and over, and the music even sounds like that. Like everything sounds like it's programmed click track, like in a lot of the stuff I see. Now here's the thing. That is a great way to play. It requires a shitload of technique to do that. It's just not my cup of tea music-wise, but it is great to have that technique. But what I'm saying is to sit here, you don't necessarily, to have a nice, smooth, organic John Bonham, mimic that Bonham-y type stuff musically, you don't need to sit and go, I mean, for like 20 minutes. See, I mean, I can't even, how fast can I actually? Yeah, but you don't. What I'm saying is because the note groupings are small. That's all you got to practice. Okay, you don't need to be. Oh yeah, well, to do that you have to do 10,000 of these in 2 minutes. It's not. That's not what you have to do. Okay, so think of it musically. Boom. That's the best one. Well, this one. Bastard. Oh wait, hang on, here's an important thing. I can't remember if I said this in this video. It's really helpful. You get more control if you start getting tired, but also in general, if by the last one of a grouping of 2 or 3, in my opinion, turn your foot from the 12 o'clock clock position to about the 1:30 or 2. See, I find it better control, because really what I'm doing there is doing the peanut. Remember the ball, the foot, and the toe, but instead of straight up parallel, kind of putting it on an angle. You know what I mean? You get more. And eventually, you know, Bonham will play that stuff fast. Wait, hang on. Oh yeah, that one. See that's just a lot. So it is the shortest. It's almost like a paradiddle. It's the shortest one you can do. But then you can add 2 more to the front of that, like a double paradiddle. 1 2 2 1 2 2 1 2 2 3. Get that tempo. You'll find a tempo that it's comfortable at, and you can do it for a long period of time where it still sounds good. It might be really slow. But again, remember, oftentimes real slow is a hell of a lot harder sometimes than real fast. You work that sweet spot in the middle. So hopefully this video is helpful. Try to make it all information-y. No, hopefully very few go off on tangency. Thanks for watching.